Welcome to Spokane, Washington, where the lights are on over Luger Field here on the campus of Gonzaga University for tonight's men's soccer matchup between the Gonzaga Bulldogs and the University of Washington Huskies. I'm Kevin McGann, joined by Rue Stenson for tonight's commentary.
It's a pleasure to be with you here today, Kevin. We're here on the eastern side of Washington, but over on the western side, let's talk about this UW team that has been dominant over the past few years, not just in their conference, but also nationally. Looking at some of their stats, they were Pac-12 champions last year. They were ranked number 1 in the preseason this year for Pac-12, and they had a national game appearance in 2021, losing to Clemson. They were Elite 8 in 3 of the last 4 seasons, and only 1 ever lost to Gonzaga all time. That also includes 1 tie to Gonzaga and 34 wins. We're looking at 14 straight wins versus Gonzaga so far, and 11 of them have been shut out. It's been a wild ride for this UW team as they have multiple opponents coming up.
Yes, and for the Zags, if they look to pull an upset against this University of Washington Huskies teams, it will all start with their number 24 midfielder, Stefano Campisi. He's got 4 goals and 3 assists so far this season, though his first 3 goals came in the first 3 games of the season. He'll look to reignite his scoring form tonight against the Huskies. Some may call it the Washington Dog Derby, and some may call it the Puppy Bowl. But nonetheless, the Zags versus the Huskies in a men's soccer matchup is up next for you here on ESPN+. Welcome back to Spokane, Washington, where we are moments away from kickoff here between the University of Washington Huskies and the Gonzaga University Bulldogs for tonight's men's soccer matchup.
It's a beautiful day here in Spokane as the sun sets upon Spokane, Washington, and we have 2 teams from either side of Washington here to play today.
Yes, and for the Gonzaga Bulldogs, Wessel Sprangers will be in goal, and he wears number 30 for the Zags. He's had 41 saves so far this season and 1.89 goals against per game. And really, the 25-year-old is a leader at the back for the Zags and has an impact in more than one way.
On the other side of the equation, for the Huskies, we have Sam Fowler, who is a senior goalkeeper. His height 6 foot, and he is the number 1 goalie for this Washington Huskies team. He was, as a junior, ranked the United Soccer Coaches All-Far West Region First Team and NCAA scorer Best Starting 11 honorable mention. He is certainly a great goalkeeper for this Washington side, as he will try and shut out this Gonzaga team, which the UW team has done plenty of times.
Yes, and especially recently. The recent history of this match doesn't look as favorable for the Zags, but they'll look to flip that on its head through their impact players, Ian Silva and Sam Dahlin. Ian Silva is listed as a forward, but has mainly made an impact so far in the midfield areas for his team. Especially in his last home game, we noted that he was an especially strong player and had a good appearance for the Zags, but he'll look to make an impact from the bench this evening. Meanwhile, Sam Dahlin is the number 6 for the Zags, and he plays the center defensive midfielder role and will look to facilitate forward motions that the Zags look to have against this Huskies defense.
And for the Huskies, the first midfielder, Imanol Rosales, the number 10, is 1 more assist away from giving him the sole possession of 4th in school history for assists in a career. And Brian Iliohan, who's the forward for this UW team, he's a graduate and he's from Holland. He was the leading scorer for this UW team with 3 goals and 2 assists so far.
Yes, and he'll look to score against his countryman, Wessel Sprangers, in the Gonzaga goal.
I mean, Kevin, we talked about calling it the Puppy Bowl, and now they're singing "Who Let the Dogs Out." Is that fitting?
Yes, I think it's very fitting, as the referee has changed the kicker of the opening kickoff. It looks like UW was prepared to take the kickoff, but it will be Gonzaga's possession to start the game, as UW has also made a change in their starting goalkeeper. They're bringing in the Spokane native, Jaden Boughton, on instead of Sam Fowler, who's been their starter throughout most of this season. UW already with possession and looks to put the Zags under immediate pressure. They'll look to switch sides, and they really have 4 forwards lined up against Gonzaga's 4 defenders. Despite the fact that this Gonzaga team will look to play with a 3-4-3, so perhaps they'll have 5 at the back whenever the possession of the ball is in UW's control.
It's certainly possession area, and those are the transitions you're going to need, is switching from a 4 to a 5 on the defensive side, especially for both sides on these teams.
Spranger is able to claim the ball for the Zags and will look to slow the game down. Plays a long ball looking for Peterson, and Peterson's able to get a flick onto Swider, and Swider looks to pickpocket the center back of the Huskies, but unable to get the better of the Husky number 3, Nate Jones. And the Huskies able to win possession and look to advance forward. Foul committed by Robbie Mora, and the Huskies will have another chance at this possession.
Kai Briscoe here, he's a defender and a senior from Renton, Washington, and you see with this UW team is a lot of players come from the home state of Washington alongside a lot of international students.
And Ben Augie able to win possession for the Zags, looks to find Campisi down the left side and able to get service into the middle for a teammate. It's steered clear by the likes of the Huskies. Number 29, Harrison Bertos. But the Zags will continue to keep up pressure. Jesse Riodo will help them switch sides of attack. And the long ball played by Campisi will deflect back out. And the Zags will be forced to build up out of the back again. Also important to note, Sam Dolan, who we list as an impact player, is playing at a right center back position as opposed to the center defensive mid position that he typically occupies. The corner kick is won for the Zags. As again, Harrison Bertos is able to prevent Chris Swider of the Gonzaga Bulldogs from getting a shot on target there.
Yeah, that was a great slide tackle right before Chris Swider had turned the defender out and was ready to shoot. And it's a great deflection and a slide tackle. Although you could call it possibly a little dangerous for slide tackle in a position like that.
Campisi will take the corner kick for the Zags and looks to put it in the box, able to bounce off the head of Augie. But it bounces out as the Zags will look to go again. A very attacking start from this Gonzaga Bulldogs team. And Augie able to pick up possession for his team again. But the referee will call it back for a previous offside.
I will say, Kevin, this Gonzaga team has started off very strong and was not what I was expecting, at least for the beginning of this game, because you were talking about a UW side that's ranked by Top Drawer Soccer and has a lot of prominence, especially with the teams they play are very tough opponents. So it's a good start for this Gonzaga team.
Yes, this is a University of Washington team that's essentially had as hard of a schedule as they could possibly make for themselves. And they've done fairly well so far throughout this season. They've got a good Pac-12 that they play against, and they'll play each opponent twice within the Pac-12, as there's only 5 men's soccer programs. And this really divides their Pac-12 season in half, this game against Gonzaga, as Gonzaga also breaks up their West Coast Conference season by including a match against the University of Washington here.
Harrison Bertos kicks that off Robbie Moore to give a throw in for the Huskies.
He'll look to find a teammate on the throw-in, but the Zags are able to isolate and win possession back. They look to continue to do so, and the ball is taken by Nick O'Brien of the Huskies, who was able to pickpocket Slingsby. And a tackle put in by Farhan Mustafa wins the ball back for the Zags. Quickly turned over, though, and the Huskies will look to go the other way.
Nate Jones picks up the ball. Is able to play it out for Bertos. And Gonzaga have a little heading session with the UW team.
Yes, and this will be an interesting tactical matchup tonight as well. It looks like this University of Washington team has lined themselves up with a 4-4-2 with a diamond in midfield and really pushing their wide players all the way forward. It almost looks like a 4-1-3-2 at times. And it will match up against a Gonzaga 3-4-3, where they'll stagger one more defensive midfielder with one more attacking one, but not necessarily have a diamond shape in midfield. Zags able to find some success, and Peterson will bring the ball forward for the Zags. He looks to play Campisi, who's playing in that wide midfielder role as opposed to the wide forward role that he normally occupies, as he'll play as really a left midfielder, but also when out of possession come all the way to really a left wing back position. He'll take the corner kick again for the Zags. And again, they'll flick it off of the head of Augie, and it will be cleared by the Huskies. Looks like that's a set play, Ru.
Yeah, certainly. And you do see it a lot across collegiate and professional levels with a little bit of a head flick because it can throw the opponent off, and with risky balls like that going deep is can certainly play a factor for teams and trying to get a cheeky goal.
Yes, and the forward motion is cut short by Ben Augie as he's able to wrestle his opponent into a bad touch there. And the throw is taken in by the Huskies quickly as they'll look to attack down the other side of the field. Jesse Riado catches his opponent there as he looks to win the ball for the Zags, and Emmanuel Rosales will have a free kick opportunity from really what you think is slightly out of shooting range.
And yeah, the goalie is Jaden Boughton for today. He is starting over the senior, Sam Fowler. Boughton is from Spokane, Washington, so he's playing on his home grounds.
Yes, and that's his second appearance this season. Huh?
Emmanuel Rosales on the ball here. Could be looking for multiple targets in the box. Possibly Nate Jones.
And the Zags are also savvy to the short free kick option down the left side of the field, or the near side of the field. The ball is played into the middle and right to the hands of Sprangers, who will look to hold the ball and allow his team to get set before continuing.
And it almost looked like he was looking for Swider, who was making a deep run. Here's the replay right there. It's easy pickup for Sprangers. I think Rosales was looking to put more curve on that.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something we'll see from Sprangers in this game, is that sometimes he'll take his time, he'll let his team get set, and when he thinks he sees something, he'll go ahead and throw the ball forward.
Taken down well by Slingsby. You know, one thing I do like to mention about Slingsby is how well he's able to take down the ball and be so composed on certain plays like that. You know, obviously a defender's coming at you. Possibly that defender could be Harrison Bertos, and he takes it down so well.
And Harrison Bertos is currently tracking back as the Zags look to attack down the left side of the field, and the shot from Slingsby will deflect off of the opponent, give his team a corner kick, and give the goalie for the UW team a little bit of a scare.
Certainly. Here's the replay right here. Great move by Robbie Mora, able to take it in and also take his time. He was able to look for a player, and he was able to find Slingsby, who had a chance, just deflected off the UW defender.
Campisi will take the corner kick on the other side this time for the Zags. And it will go over the head of Ben Augie this time and bounce out. The Zags will retain possession. And it will go all the way across as a collision occurs between a few Zag players and the Husky goalkeeper Jaden Boughton. The referee calls a free kick, which is to the dismay of, it seems, the Gonzaga bench and fans, as well as the team. But Boughton seemed to have it covered regardless. He dropped the ball but was able to get to the ball first before any Gonzaga players were able to put it in the net.
Certainly, yeah. Played around the back here. Nate Jones on the ball. Looking for his targets. Looks to play over the top.
And he plays it a little bit past his teammate Harrison Bertos, who's unable to get to the end of that one.
Substitution here. We do see Richie Amen coming off for Emmanuel Rosales. And we talked about him as being one of the impact players, and you might expect this University of Washington team to sub in a few players, as Gonzaga is one of the lesser ranked teams that they have played. So maybe getting in some younger players to give them some time, Kev.
Yes, and it looks like that's also come with a slight tactical change. It looks like this University of Washington team is looking to put a player that might be a little bit quicker, a little bit faster to pressure their opponent and really switch from a diamond shape in the midfield to put their opponents under pressure with a 3 attacking midfielder formation with 2 forwards in front of them. They'll have an attacking unit of 5 for the Huskies as they look to attack, as Swider wins the foul for the Zags there. Slingsby will take it quick to Riado. He's able to find Ben Augie in space, and Ben Augie looks to shoot, and that one will go wide of the net.
Certainly a good opportunity, though, for Gonzaga. Just a quick play to play it short. Jesse's there in the middle with tons of space, and he makes a good direct pass for Augie. Just a little bit off on the shot. Nate Jones picks up the ball again. Harrison Bertos is to his wing. Kalani Kosarienzi plays it wide.
And able to find a teammate all the way on the end. And able to get a shot, and that's the first goal for Washington. Number 20, Nick O'Brien, has broken the deadlock here in Spokane. And Washington Huskies will find themselves at a 1-goal advantage despite not really having the flow of possession. And they'll be happy to find themselves with this advantage, Rue.
Definitely an interesting possession right there. It's a good save by Sprangers. And Nick O'Brien is able to get there in the right spot in the right time and just chip the keeper as Wessel Sprangers was on the ground. It was definitely an interesting set of circumstances, Kevin.
Yes, and it's something that Gonzaga's team was always risking. They haven't sat back. They've tried to play through this University of Washington team, and in that case, it seems like an attack has come out of nowhere, and Gonzaga finds themselves at a 1-goal disadvantage 13 minutes into this one.
Now, I think it'll be a strike in the heart for this Gonzaga team, who thought they've been playing better and have had more opportunities, but unfortunately give up a goal like that, which is certainly a shot at the confidence.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that you have to be savvy to no matter who you're going up against, and especially against a team that's ranked as one of the best in the nation. When University of Washington is really allowing you to maintain some possession, you have to be concerned about the things that they might have coming down at the other end of the field and the counterattacks that they may look to rely upon and draw you out when perhaps they might have expected that your team would sit a little bit farther deep.
Good ball played in there by Ben Augie. Unfortunately not able to get it was Chris Wider on the header attempt. But Gonzaga will look to press here on the wing.
And the Huskies will look to play the ball long and quickly again. The Zags seem to have trust in their 3 center backs. And in that case, rightly so, as Sam Dahlin was able to get a foot onto it and win the ball for his team. The Zags will attack down the left side of the field to Campisi. And he'll look into the middle. As the UW coach urges their players to really put their opponent under pressure. I don't think he's happy with the amount of possession that they've allowed this Gonzaga team to have. But the Zags still retain possession, and Augie looks to play Campisi down the side, but it will be picked off. And the University of Washington team will look to attack and really maintain possession here.
A little bit of play around on the right-hand side for this team. Kai Briscoe finds himself on the ball. looking for options. There's Gabe Threadgold on the ball. But it doesn't look like this Gonzaga team will press past the halfway line. And we'll look to just shift as a team, as there is a down player on the far side of the field for Gonzaga.
Yeah, Ben Augie's found himself on the ground, looking like he's holding his ankle a little bit, which is not a good sign for the Zags, as he's been really producer of a lot of their attacking output so far this evening. And the University of Washington Huskies will play it out of bounds and allow Augie to get some attention from the Gonzaga medical training staff, and hopefully he's okay to continue. But he's gone down really alone there, and it looks like he might have hurt his ankle at a different incident, and it's starting to catch up to him now.
Yeah, certainly. If you're a player at this level, you try to brush off those kind of plays where, you know, you kind of tweak your ankle a little bit and you think you can play through, and then you really have to make the right decision and take a step down and relax. And unfortunately for Ben Augie, this is the situation he finds himself in.
Yeah, and he'll be strong enough to limp off the field, and it looks like the Zags will prepare Leon Sitz to be his substitute, the senior from Brandenburg, Germany. But unfortunate for Augie and the Zags, as it looks like that might be the incident where he's caught his ankle. I think a mixture of the contact with his opponent there and hitting the wrong part of his ankle when he stepped down into the ground afterwards. And it seems that it's caught up to him, and he will leave the game at this point in time. Hopefully we're able to see him again later in this game, and the Zags will bring on their number 28, Jel Van Dyke.
Yeah, much like this Gonzaga team, Van Dyke is another player from Eindhoven, Netherlands. Certainly a producer of so many great talents across the world that we see today. A little bit of a mistake from Nate Jones there, but no one's able to capitalize on it as UW builds up.
He recovered as if it was planned, bro.
I know, right?
If it was some sort of feint to fool his opponent, he's fooled us as well. The referee will call that that University of Washington attack short, as Harrison Bertos was offside on the play. A freshman from Bedford, Massachusetts.
Yeah, certainly, Kevin. I grew up not too far from Bedford, Massachusetts.
How's the soccer there, bro?
You know, I was one of the top talents, so no one could really come after me, not even Harrison, but no, I'm joking. The soccer there's good. Good players come from there.
And Harrison Bertos is one of those good players, as he's playing for one of the best programs in the country as a freshman. A team that also notably has rotated many of their different players to get involvements in different games. The Huskies look to attack quickly, and they'll look to maintain possession and bring the ball down the far side of the field. Switching points of attack against the Zags. The Zags savvy to that switch, though, and able to work themselves across in time.
Kai Briscoe looking to play wide for Gabe Threadgold. Some pressure mounting on from this Gonzaga side, but Harrison Bertos will find himself with some space here on the near side. He's giving off for Richie Amen and giving back to Nate Jones.
And really it's important to note and kind of watch as you watch so far when this game has the Huskies passing it around, that they really only have two players in the center of midfield, and they're able really to be surrounded by 5 Gonzaga defenders and maintain possession of the ball, which really goes to show that there's 2 of the best midfielders in Division I soccer here on this Washington Huskies team.
Yeah, they do have such great players all around the board. And we'll certainly look to take an opportunity to see what talents they have recruited and what players will be able to find themselves in this game today.
Yeah, and this is a program that's had great players in the past as well. They've got they have 6 former players that are currently playing in the MLS, and the Seattle Sounders Christian Roldan is amongst them. It's quite common for some programs to have star players come out of their programs like Roldan, and really throughout the history of U.S. soccer, we've seen a lot of good players come out of the NCAA men's soccer programs. Roldan, one of them. Clinton Dempsey of the Seattle Sound. I guess he also played for the Seattle Sounders and played for Furman in his collegiate time, another team that plays in purple.
Shrewd observation, Kevin. Play is called dead there. As we can also turn to some of the Gonzaga midfielders who play a factor for this team. I think we see it a lot with Robbie Mora, Jesse Ryodale, and even Sam Dolan, who are such great players and have an engine to them. They just have to stay composed and be able to find the open space, maybe even switch the field on occasions.
And they'll have to find space. They'll have to be really savvy to the spatial perceptions and shifts in the game. They'll have to have a increased sense of spatial awareness throughout this game in order to find the spaces that they can occupy and find success to get past this University of Washington midfield and defensive lines. Sprangers looks to play it long for the Zags. No risks at the back and not allowing their opponent really to put them under any pressure. Swider looks to outrun his opponent and unable to do so. Slingsby will maintain possession for the Zags, and they'll look to play it out of the back and really allow themselves to be put under pressure. The Huskies look to increase the pressure on this one. Players running forward and able to cut the Zag attack short. But it'll be a Gonzaga throw-in, and Drew Peterson unable to connect with Swider on that one. Long ball from the Huskies, really a clearance, will go all the way to the hands of Sprangers, who will look to play it long again.
That was a pinpoint ball, Kevin. I'm not going to lie. That was a great ball straight from Sprangers to Peterson, I believe.
Yeah, Sprangers is really a very experienced player on this Gonzaga team, the 25-year-old goalkeeper, and he's able to do things that maybe younger players won't be as composed to do, and has a load of talent that he possesses. And in that case, he was able to showcase it by putting really a ball on the thigh of his teammate there.
And certainly, being 25 years old, he did just have his birthday, so we'll shout out Wessel Sprangers for a happy 25th.
Yes, we'll definitely wish him a happy birthday, as it was, I believe, last week. The Huskies look to attack and look to put a ball into the middle, able to bring it down quite impressively, and a shot saved by Sprangers. Ham Hughes will look to clear it, unable to clear it all the way, and the Huskies will maintain pressure upon their opponent, and that ball will bounce off of the foot of Farham Mustafa. He's done well to get himself in a position there to make sure it doesn't go in the goal, but it's rolled just wide of the goal. Impressive teamwork to bring that ball down, really, from the Huskies, and impressive teamwork to win the ball back there as Ham Hughes looked to clear it, and Mustafa able just to poke the ball out of bounds. Really poking it towards his own goal there, but able to keep enough composure not to scare any of his teammates. UW looks to continue the pressure and put another ball into the box, able to get to the back post and able to get someone on the end of it, and a volley will come in, and the Zags are able to clear it as it's held up in the middle of the box. Campisi will look to attack quickly for the Zags.
Yeah, just looking back at the replay for the Huskies, that was a great header back. I believe it was Nick O'Brien, the goal scorer, and he is a redshirt freshman coming from San Jose, California. Or sorry, yeah, he is from San Jose, California. Played at Archbishop Mitty. I think that was the same high school as Aaron Gordon. Crazy to note.
That is crazy. The Zags look to find some success down the right side. Slingsby will hold it up. And he's able to find a teammate despite being pressured by multiple Huskies. And the referee will call it back for being offside. It's been a story of this game so far, really, Rue. I mean, we've seen both teams be called offside more times than what you normally expect or see. Perhaps both eager to get down the field and to the goal.
Yeah, and it can be a little bit of eagerness. I also think there could be a little bit of mischemistry. I think for the Husky side, certainly they're playing different players, so getting the chemistry between them is a normal thing. But for this Gonzaga team, it should be down pat at this point for plays like this to occur. And I've seen multiple times on this near side where plays never accumulated to anything, especially with the fact that on the right-hand side there's a good, strong talent of players for this Gonzaga side, and they should be able to connect well.
Sprangers came off his line there to make sure that there was no attacking threat, as the likes of Nick O'Brien was past the Gonzaga line of defense and really on his own in terms of a 1v1 with the keeper. But Spranger's able to get to the ball first and clear it. Spranger's also pushed Ham Hughes, his teammate, forward there, who was able to get his head to the ball. It's always an interesting thing. The goalkeepers really have a better view, and in some cases can be the second coach for the team, telling their teammates where to be and what areas they need to focus on. They can see the spaces a lot better, as they don't always have to focus on the spaces immediately around them and can see the entire spaces of the field. They have an interesting tactical output, and it looks like Sprangers is showcasing that by constantly communicating with his teammates.
Yeah, and communication's so key for the goalkeeper in order to keep the team intact, and as you said, Kevin, have that specific view then and perspective that no one else can see.
UW will take another long throw. Ham Hughes will get to it first again. And the Huskies will bounce it in, and Sprangers will come off of his line and collide with Dahlin, but claim the ball. No fumbling on that one.
We'll take it down. Looking for some pressure from Brian Iliohan. It'll be taken down by Drew Peterson. Played wide to Campisi.
And Campisi will look to find Peterson back in the middle, unable to do so. And the Huskies were really just able to read that one first and look to go quickly down the other way. And Dahlin with a strong tackle and clearance. The Zags able to win possession back high. And Swider catching a bit of his opponent, and opponent a bit of him as well. We'll see how much the referee allows them to really push one another. This has been a game that really hasn't been the most physical by Division I men's soccer standards or the Zag standards, as they both look to play the ball on the ground and try and showcase their abilities as a team. Peterson caught a little bit of Jaden Bowden, who was jumping up for that ball. Really an impressive amount of height he was able to get on that jump there, bro.
Yeah, certainly. And the undercut's a bit of a dangerous move if you are the goalkeeper. If you're getting undercut, you'll be coming down awkwardly, and possibly something that should be noted for the refs.
Yes, and I think we heard a little bit of chatter from the fans as well during that one. It looks like there's a full house tonight, and perhaps a lot of UW fans, because this is a very large attendance by the standards. I believe it seems like a packed field. I don't see anywhere where you could stand in this audience and see the game. University of Washington fans will also be happy after defeating University of Oregon in football earlier today. The ball is played down the far side of the field for the Huskies and able to maintain possession of it as Mustafa tries to hit it off of his opponent, unable to do so. And the shot from number 33, Brian Ililohan, will go over the goal.
Mikey Sherlock coming in for the Huskies in replacement of number 14, Christian Soto.
And that's another redshirt freshman that this Washington Huskies team is bringing on. I think to their credit, they have a lot of depth in this team. They've played quite a few younger players so far in this game and able to give their younger players some experience, as well as expand upon their team depth for when they hope to be in the tournament at the end of the season.
Foul they're called for the Huskies was on Kai Briscoe there. And Gabe Goldstead. Or sorry, Gabe Threadgold. Look to swing it wide back to the goalkeeper, and now for Nate Jones.
The Huskies will maintain possession. They've been able to have a lot more possession in these past really 10 minutes than they were in the opening stages of the game, and they'll be a lot happier with that. Although it really has given their opposition, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, a chance to defend as a unit and get all behind the ball, as they'll look to do now. When their goal was scored on a counterattack. The Zags now playing with a low block. Earlier it was looking like their line of confrontation was around the midfield, and now it looks like it's really around a quarter of the field. Which means when they win balls like this, where Swider against two opponents, he now has to go a lot further down the field, and it brings their forwards farther from really the end target or the goal.
Certainly, it makes it definitely a lot tougher, and counterattacking plays will require a lot of Gonzaga teammates to come with Swider on occasions like that.
And Campisi able to break through multiple Husky defenders and able to get a shot on goal, and it will go into the goal, and the Zags have tied this one at 1-1. Campisi will run to the corner and celebrate with the Gonzaga Bulldog fans as he's tied this game up at 1-1 against the Washington Huskies.
Here's the replay, just looking at it again. Campisi took it all down by himself. No defense possible, and there was no way that Jaden Boughton was going to be able to save that, as it was placed perfectly in the corner.
Yes, and we talked about Campisi before the game and how he was going to be crucial for the Zags attack, and there he was the entire Zags attack. A great solo goal from Campisi that he'll definitely be watching back and putting in his own personal highlight reel, bro.
Certainly. Against a team like the Huskies, that's a great achievement. And now the Huskies find themselves in an interesting position, especially with the players they have on the field, and will possibly look to change that as they are tied now.
Yes, and this is a Gonzaga team that's had a series of ties so far this season. They were able to tie Cal State Fullerton here in Spokane a few weeks ago, and Cal State Fullerton has now found themselves in the United Soccer Coaches Top 25, ranked at number 14, I believe. The Zags now find themselves at the same scoreline as that game in the first half of this one and a third of the way through the game, as a foul is called against Peterson for shoving his opponent Kai Briscoe. And the Huskies will have an opportunity to take the ball from the ground.
I didn't really see much there, Kevin. Not too sure. I know they would be in the favor side of the defender, but I didn't see too much shoving from Peterson.
Yes, it looks like they each caught a good bit of one another, and the referee has decided that that foul will go in the Huskies' favor.
Kai Briscoe plays it out wide for Gabe Threadgold. Looking in the middle for Kalani Kosarienzi, but it's chipped out back wide for Kai Briscoe. Kosarienzi finds himself on the ball. Nate Jones swings it out wide. Still good defense from this Gonzaga side, as UW does not know where to go at this point. They seem to swing it out wide and get trapped with a little bit of a man-on-man.
Yes, and also important to note that this Gonzaga team, immediately after tying that Cal State Fuller team, was able to tie a Seattle University team that's also ranked inside the top 25 currently, and a team that beat this University of Washington team a few weeks ago.
The redshirt freshman, Mikey Sherlock there. Seeing what he can create.
And the Huskies look to bring the ball down at the top of the box and get a shot on target, and the shot is anything but on target, as it seems he's caught a little bit of his opponent's tackle there. And the Zags will make a substitution. They'll bring off Devin Slingsby, who's been playing as the right midfielder in the core 4 of midfield that the Zags like to play with. And they'll bring on number 23, freshman Ben Elkins from Sacramento, California.
And one thing we do know about Elkins is the sheer speed he has. So if you're Harrison Bertos, you better have done your research and watch out for a player like him who will definitely kill you with speed.
Yes, and perhaps that's the reason why they've brought off Slingsby, who's really played a multitude of minutes so far for this Zags team and has a wealth of experience for the Zags. I know that Slingsby was a candidate for captain, but he also finds himself now sitting on the medical table. So we hope that he's all right. It looks like he might just be looking to be a companion for his teammate Ben Augie, though.
And Ben Augie will certainly be a big blow for this Gonzaga side, as he is a great creator on the offensive side, as well as a great pressure and defender when he's playing at a midfield role, and it's something that this Gonzaga team will certainly miss.
Yes, and Ben Augie is also currently getting his knee wrapped, not his ankle as we initially thought. So we hope that that's a wrap that they'll send him back on the field, and hopefully he can continue to play with. Ham Hughes clears the ball.
Yeah, must have been feeling some pressure from Brian Iliohan. And you can see with this Huskies team is the amount of attackers they have is a chop and challenge by Sprangers is put on. And we do see Nick O'Brien still down for this Huskies team. Definitely a blow he took to the chest.
Yeah, that's a risky challenge from Sprangers. I think we can't tell with our headsets on if he called for the ball, but if he didn't, he's kind of just gone through the back of his opponent. He's in his own box, so he's within his rights to do that, but definitely a dangerous play.
I mean, we have talked about this with Sprangers before. Here's the replay. I mean, he was clearly going for the ball. Obviously, no harmful intent on Nick O'Brien. But we talked about Wessel Sprangers. If you're one of the opponents in the box and you see Wessel Sprangers coming out, I mean, I don't know about you, Kevin, but I'm getting out the way.
I am getting out the way as well, but Sprangers was the one to claim that one, as his opponent did not get out of the way, as we would have.
And Nick O'Brien was that opponent who I would say has been playing very well for this team so far. He got that goal for the Washington team, and he's had certainly plenty of other opportunities on the attacking side where he's able to create and see what opportunities he can manifest for the UW team.
Yes, and the ball has slipped through the UW captain's feet, Kalani Kosa-Rienzi. The Zags will make 2 subs as they bring off Chris Swider and Drew Peterson for the more experienced duo in Nicholas Bianchi and Cam Bain.
And for the Husky side, we do see Nick O'Brien come off for Sean Sent.
The Zags will have a throw-in, which they'll look to put amongst another Gonzaga Bulldog. And he's put it up for all the dogs there, as the Huskies are able to claim it initially, but it will wrestle between the Zags as well. For all the dogs, also an album that came out recently.
Yeah, by Drake. I listened to it. It's a good album.
Yeah.
Wish it was better, though.
I think this matchup between all the dogs is better.
I agree.
The Huskies will look to be the top dog as they advance down the field. They look to put a ball into the middle, able to do so. Although Sprangers is able to claim it, and really you have to think if you're the Huskies, you might want to try and find some success in some other ways, as Sprangers' frame is able to get him to the end of really every cross that they've put in so far today.
Iliohan will pressure Sprangers to kick it away. And Gonzaga will retain possession here. Possibly an opportunity created. And unfortunately, nothing is created as Jaden Boughton's able to pick it back up with the help of his defenders.
Yes, and that's well done by Boughton to show a good bit of composure in that instance. The Huskies will look to continue building out of the back in no particular rush. Find themselves at a 1-1 draw, but don't seem to be overly dismayed by the fact that they're not winning at this point in the game, which you may expect from a team that really has a deep history of winning, especially under their current coach, Jamie Clark, in his 13th season, and really in their history against the Gonzaga Bulldogs as well.
UW's able to retain possession here. Richie Amen on the ball here, swings it in, and it's a little too far over the top, but it'll be a throw-in for the Gonzaga side.
Yeah, I think Amen's primary concern on that one was trying to get it over the frame of Sprangers, and he was able to do that. He wasn't able to find a teammate on the other side.
As we do come here to the final 7 minutes or so, it has been certainly a game that I haven't expected from my perspective, Kevin, in terms of seeing both these sides on either side of Washington, I guess you could say.
Yes, I think we've seen really an unexpected tactical play from the Zags. They don't seem to be scared of their opponents, as a lot of teams would in a matchup that has such large, really RPI discrepancies between the two teams. And they seem to want to play and bring the ball out and take the game to this University of Washington team, and it's made for a much more interesting game than really was expected initially, and they've been able to maintain themselves and compete in this game.
Certainly, and we do see here at 1-1, and for this UW side, it's definitely going to be some game planning and possibly worry for the future. As he got the ball, I'd say he did, as Kai Briscoe was able to leap over the Gonzaga attacker and get the ball there.
Yeah, and the primary amount of noise there we heard as well is not from the fans. It's from the Gonzaga bench and coaching staff. It's something they do really frequently through their home games, is try and create an atmosphere and influence referee decisions as they're made in the split second. That one was fairly obvious and clear, though, that it was not enough to suffice a foul, and the referee was not going to change his mind.
Cam Bain looking to press there.
I think that's a tactic that's quite frequent amongst soccer programs throughout the country. You'll see, if the camera pans that way, to the Gonzaga bench, and they're all standing up on the side of the field supporting their teammates. Whereas for the University of Washington, they'll sit on the bench and watch and wait for their turn to be called. Although many teams that we've seen come visit here at Luger Field also have a sort of tactic where they try and create an atmosphere for their teammates by standing along the side of the field and cheering them on. Here we'll get another look at the foul call. That's number 24, Kai Briscoe, going up for the ball, and he's caught Cam Bain. I don't think he's seen him, and he's won the header, but he's brought down Bain. And really, I think it depends on the referee and where he draws the line.
I mean, if I'm looking at that, I think Kai Briscoe won 100%. I think it was just after the fact where he kind of sliced Cam Bain a little bit in the face and was a little bit unnecessary, but you can't really knock him off for that unless there's true intention behind it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it depends on which player sees their opponent more. I think that particular play, and when one player's in the air and the other's on the ground, it can be called a multitude of different ways. But I think Cam Bain and his opponent, Kai Briscoe, neither were really aware of one another. But if they were, the party that was aware of the other and still proceeded to put their opponent in a dangerous situation would be called for a foul. whether that be the player on the ground running into a player that's jumped up to challenge the ball and putting them off balance in the air, or a player running and jumping into the back of their opponent. University of Washington will have a free kick here to be taken by their number 6, Kalani Kosarienzi. And it's put into the box, and it will roll all the way through, and Sprangers will go claim it for the Zags.
Sprangers looks to give his attackers a little wave as gave a little sorry they wasn't able to play it in time, as it looked like there were plenty of Gonzaga numbers up top. And that'll sail right back to Sprangers, possibly able to play the attackers one more time.
Yes, and Sprangers in the pink kit for the Zags, which seems to be their typical home jersey for their goalkeepers.
I think it is also breast cancer awareness, so although it is their main colors, a little bit of a approval from the Gonzaga side.
Yes, a double entendre, if you will, Ru.
Of course.
We saw the Gonzaga women's team had their pink out night for breast cancer awareness, and that was last weekend, and this weekend the Zags perhaps doing a bit of the same on the men's side by choosing the pink jersey for their goalkeeper.
And certainly for that women's team, they did catch a loss today against the Gales and St. Mary's, which wasn't the expected outcome for that game. And possibly for this game, the men's will try to avenge what the women weren't able to do.
Yeah, and that's a really probably frustrating performance for a lot of the players on that team as they look to make the tournament and break through. And a loss against the St. Mary's team does not help them in any regard. This is not one of the stronger teams so far this season in the West Coast Conference, but they've got 4 games still on the women's side of things. And after tonight, the men will have 5 games left. A shot from the likes of the Husky number 9, Richie Aman, will go over the goal. Here's another look. He's able to pick the ball up and take an extra touch and align himself to shoot. I think he was looking to do the spectacular there and put it in the corner over Sprangers and got a little bit too much under it and sent it over the goal.
And with less than a minute remaining, Sprangers will call his team up and look to boot it far, maybe create a chance or not.
And the ball will bounce through to the goalkeeper for the Huskies, who will hold it till the end of the first half. Ru, any thoughts in the first half so far?
I mean, I mentioned it. Certainly not what I've expected. And I think for the Gonzaga side, they'll be happy. But they better know that a relentless force in this Huskies team will be coming in the second half. And they might be putting on some stronger players in order to secure a goal and especially a win, which is so crucial. But for this Gonzaga side, I think it'd be a monumentous win, as they've only won once against UW all time.
Yes, and they'll look to do that more in the second half, which we'll have up for you next. But first, the halftime show in between. We'll send you to break, and we'll be right back. You are watching Gonzaga Soccer here on ESPN+. Welcome back to Spokane, Washington, where the halftime score between the Gonzaga Bulldogs and the Washington Huskies is 1-1. Thoughts, Ru?
Definitely not what I expected. I mentioned it before. And we're talking about two Washington teams here, Kevin, that play on either side of each other. Spokane, second biggest city in Washington, and Seattle, obviously, the number 1 biggest city in Washington. So obviously there would be a great fan attendance, wouldn't there be, Kevin?
Yes, and this is actually the best attendance of the season for Gonzaga soccer, men's or women's, as it's really a Washington State rivalry that we have here.
Yeah, certainly, and although the records don't really replicate how close of a game it could be, the game so far has been very close, and I think the fans will be pretty happy with how the game has played out so far and the certain sights that they've seen.
Yeah, and I think fans of both teams will be satisfied so far to see their team on the score sheet, and I think that there's definitely a mixture of Gonzaga and University of Washington fans and alumni alike that are here to support their athletic programs.
Certainly, and you're talking about a 4.5 hour drive from either side of the state, so a good travel distance that the fans have made from Seattle.
Yes, and of course you would expect the Washington Dog Derby to have the most attendance in the Gonzaga season, as they will have more games upcoming and an opportunity to break that record. You are watching Gonzaga Soccer on ESPN+. Highlights up next.
And welcome back to Luger Field in Spokane, Washington, as a derby of both Washington sides come here to battle it out in Spokane, Washington. The night is setting, and it's gotten a little colder with the dry air setting in. Certainly won't play a fact on the players as they've been running around, and let's take a look at some of the highlights that we've seen so far. Of course, 2 goals scored, but plenty of highlights to talk about. Wessel Sprengers plays it over the top, and Chris Swider tries to take a turn on it. And Nate Jones is faked out, but it's great defense from Harrison Bertos on that occasion. Robbie Moore gets a great turn onto the baseline, waiting to find options, and he does find Slingsby, who hits it off the defender, but another great opportunity for this Gonzaga side. Ball played in here deep, and it's a good save by Jaden Boughton, and a foul is called on that occasion. We do see Kosi Rienzi play it wide for UW, swings it out. Ball played in first time. Sprenger saves it, and Nick O'Brien's able to take it up and chip the keeper as he was down on the ground. Second look at the replay. The referees were looking for a possible offsides, but none called, as that's what they believed in. Here we do see a great shot taken here by Brian Iliohan, and it's cleared out. Another opportunity is created with Richie Amen playing it in, and it sailed just right out of bounds for Mustafa, who saves this Gonzaga side. And of course, here's another opportunity with the goal kick. Drew Peterson just undercutting Jaden Boughton on a certain play there that could be considered a foul in the future. Here we do see Gonzaga here moving it down. Campisi running the whole way around, soloing against the UW team. Certainly that's someone who will be on his highlight reel, and sails it onto the right corner, right past Jaden Boughton. It's a great goal for Campisi and this Gonzaga side, who stay in a deadlock 1-1 against a UW team that is also really good. And in terms of RPI discrepancy, there will be some things to talk about for the second half, especially on the Washington side, and what game plans they'll have to come up with.
Yeah, and this Gonzaga side will be really happy with their teammate Campisi and their top goal scorer for keeping him in a lot of games so far this season, and this being one at the halfway point. They found themselves outshot 5-3, which is not a huge discrepancy, and they found themselves even on the stat that matters, Drew.
Exactly, yeah. And it's been close so far, especially with both the goals being scored in the first segment of this first half. And we'll have to see on the second half what creations can occur. And we might see the crowd erupt, especially if the Bulldogs come out with a win, Kevin.
Yes, and I think that's something that's not out of their minds so far in this game, and I think it's something very possible that we might see in this game. We'll have those in 45 minutes of the second half up next for you here on ESPN+. Welcome back to Spokane, Washington, and to a packed Luger Field, where the second half is about to kick off between the Gonzaga Bulldogs and the University of Washington Huskies, and they find themselves all level on 1-1.
Yeah, and certainly it'll be a great deal and change in terms of the record if Gonzaga is able to come out with a win or a tie. And here, looking at the schedule for Gonzaga, these are the final 5 actual games. And we do see that 2 of them will be played in Spokane on the 21st and on November 4th against Santa Clara. I think that'll be a big game, especially against Santa Clara, who are a very tough opponent and someone to face. Alongside that, Portland will be a great opponent to face, and will certainly be tough opponents that this Gonzaga team has faced. And they've already started off with UW right here, who started off playing well.
Yes, and for UW, they'll look at the final 5 games of their regular season, as well as they play against Cal, Stanford at home, Cal and Stanford, and then they'll go to Los Angeles to play against the likes of UCLA. They'll play against San Diego State in San Diego, and then their last game is also away at Oregon State, Rue. And really, this is a Washington team that has more losses than they have had in previous years, and the Zags can put a real question mark on if they will be in the NCAA tournament with a win tonight.
Yes, certainly it'd play a factor for sure. And I think part of those losses is mentioned about how tough this Pac-12 schedule is for this Washington team. And even the teams that were out of conference were very tough and especially tough to face. So I think that has to play a factor in terms of rankings and the amount of losses that this UW team has.
Yes, and this is a team with 4 losses already, and the Zags are looking to make it 5 for the University of Washington tonight. And we'll see through these next 45 minutes, and hopefully we get 45 minutes full of action-packed soccer. University of Washington Huskies in purple, the Gonzaga Bulldogs in white, and the referees in a neon yellow. That actually matches the University of Washington goalkeeper kit, which is rather unorthodox, as University of Washington already is able to get really a shot. It will deflect out and go down as a corner kick. And the Huskies will look to have a quick start in the second half and find themselves on the front foot. The Zags came out in the first half on the front foot, and the Huskies will look to do that in the second half. The ball played in after a short corner, and it will bounce all the way to the far post, but unable to get anything past the likes of Sprangers or to another teammate in the middle of the box.
Yeah, and that ball played in by Peter Kingston was a little questionable. I think it was a little too far out, and it sailed for a while, as we do see Kingston hit the ball there.
And Spranger is able to put a long ball all the way, and Kingston able to get to it first, but the Zags able to maintain possession. As we do see Ben Augie return to the field, which is exciting news for the Zags. A star player who went off injured in the earlier portions of the game. Zags look to go down the far side of the field through Swider, and Swider able to maintain possession of the ball. And Drew Peterson will go down in the penalty box claiming a foul. The referee will quite sternly say no foul was committed, as the Zags look to put pressure right back on their opponents. And Slingsby looks to put the ball into the middle, able to do so, but the Huskies will get there first and look to go the other way. An action-packed end-to-end beginning of the second half, Rue.
Certainly. Richie Amen getting bullied here by Augie, and a foul will be called on that occasion, as Augie was bullying a little too hard, Kevin.
Yeah, it seems Augie's caught a little bit of him there. Here's a foul shout for the penalty box, and Drew Peterson really hasn't helped himself out there. It looks like there might have been a tangle of legs between him and the University of Washington Husky center back, but not enough to give a penalty kick, and perhaps the referee might be a little bit less likely to believe fouls against Peterson later in this game. The ball played into the middle for the Huskies and cleared by Mustafa. It will fall again to the Huskies' number 8, Peter Kingston. They'll look to attack down the near side of the field and go all the way to the corner kick, and Dahlin will win the foul for the Zags.
Yeah, Richie Amen there being a little too aggressive on that occasion, and he will cause a foul on Campisi, as he does hold his shoulder a little bit. Possibly some concern, Kevin?
I don't think so. I think that the way he fell, and if he fell on his shoulder, it was almost entirely his own fault. He decided to throw his hands up in the air and call for a foul rather than really kind of catch himself. And I think to some extent it would have been a foul if that had happened, but he sold the foul in a lot of aspects in that way. But it seems that he's able to continue and completely unharmed from that foul.
Swider was looking to take it around the Huskies, and he wins them a corner with Campisi on the ball now. Options possibly in play. I think Peter Hamhughes could be one of the sole options.
Yes, the Gonzaga center back has found himself all the way in the box as Campisi puts the ball in the middle. Looks to find Augie, but the Huskies have seemingly figured out this set play and have a defender in front of the likes of Augie. The Zags will look to possess the ball on the wide flank and are dispossessed in that instance, as the Huskies look to run down the field the other way. And they'll play the ball wide to the far side of the field and look to come inside through the half space and switch the point of attack again all the way to the near side. The ball played in the middle, and Sprangers will come up and claim it. A well done, composed claim from Sprangers, as there were a multitude of Huskies behind him if he had missed it. He'll put the ball down and look to play long to Swider, and the ball will be won by the Huskies, who seem to have enough shape to respect the counterattack potential of the Zags. We brought 6 defenders back on that long ball, and we're really found themselves in a 6v1 versus Swider.
Swung out wide here. Looking for options is number 8, Peter Kingston. And UW is able to retain it, finding Richie Amen on the ball with a play-in, and is booted out. Right back to the Huskies side, who are staying on the side of the Zags on the offensive end.
Yes, this Huskies team looks to really assert their dominance and possess the ball much more in the second half. I think they'd prefer to be a team with possession, trying to break down the opponent's defensive block rather than attack on a counter-attack how they scored in the first game. I think in the season 2 years ago when they found themselves in the national finals, they were able to do both. And I think they're still a team that's able to do both, but I think they'd much prefer possessing the ball and not allowing the Zags into really any dangerous position or position where they can shoot, or one mistake is the difference between a goal.
Peter Kingston back on the ball, able to scissor past Gonzaga, but it wasn't look like it was going to anyone specifically on the Husky side. And look at how far up this defensive line is for the Huskies.
Yes, and I think that it's not really not much of a tactical surprise when you see how far back Gonzaga is playing. They're allowing the Husky defenders to come all the way forward to that point without really having to be concerned about the counterattack, as both of Gonzaga's 2 forwards, as it now looks like they're playing with 2 forwards, are behind the center backs. Jesse Riado will come off the field. It looks like he's limping a little bit and holding his knee. And next, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, number 28, Joe Van Dyke, a freshman from the Netherlands. And Riado will immediately seek attention on the bench, as it seems that he's injured his knee. The ball played long, bounces over one Husky defender. But it will bounce out for a University of Washington throw-in on the near side. They'll be in no rush to take it. And able to bring it down, really as a team. And it's a group of 3 players from the University of Washington bring the throw into the ground and then have the ball poked out for another throw in. They'll play it in the middle and look to switch the point of attack again and move their opponents. The ball's played through, and the Huskies look to have some sort of attacking return, but again are finding themselves largely in the wide areas. The Zags are doing well to defend the center of the field and prevent their opponents from getting any outputs down in the middle of the field and towards the center of the goal. The Huskies, however, are able to really maintain possession and control the flow of this game so far, as Mustafa's beaten. And the Huskies look to play it down the right side of the field, and Hamhughes will put it well out of bounds and clear. But a corner kick will be next for the Huskies.
And I think if you're a spectator watching this, if the score remains this way, you will see that Gonzaga will remain pretty defended and stay back for a lot of the game, as they want to maintain this 1-1 tie. It would certainly be huge for them.
Yes, and the ball's played into the middle and will bounce off of the head of Slingsby The Huskies will look to put it back in the middle, and that one will be cleared again. And a shot from the University of Washington Huskies forces Sprangers to make a save, and he'll stay down for a moment. He went full stretch to block that one, and that will go in his own personal highlight reel and really keep his team level. You see why he's the starter for this Gonzaga Bulldogs team, as University of Washington takes the corner short and looks to move around a few Gonzaga defenders in the way before they put the ball into the middle. They'll cross the ball, and it's able to get to the back post. It is headed down, but Sprangers again will be there to ease the pressure for his team.
Certainly Sprangers will be such a key role for the rest of the second half, as he's going to have to stay very composed, stay very active at the same time, and make sure no silly mistakes are made on the defensive line in terms of communication and overall play.
Yes, and Sprangers has really, in these past few moments, and Gonzaga's defense has found themselves in really showing their nerves. Sprangers has seemed to have no nerves for his team, which can make a huge impact on the defensive side of the field, which can go all the way forward as Augie is brought down by a challenge and a slide tackle by Mikey Sherlock, who will receive a yellow card for his foul on that occasion. Ben Augie able to get up and stay on the field. And the Zags will have a free kick opportunity, something you don't want to concede if you're the University of Washington. And Mikey Sherlock will immediately be substituted off of the field for Christian Soto.
And I did think Ben Augie did sell that a little bit, as he was able to get the foul for his team and create an opportunity for this Gonzaga side where if they scored a goal, Kevin, it'd be wild. The fans would go crazy.
Yes, Luger Field would erupt. Campisi puts the ball into the middle for a teammate, and it rolls over the head of his teammates and wide. Ham Hughes has gone down holding his face. Perhaps he believes that there's been some illegal contact with an opponent, but the referee hasn't seen it, and he won't get another chance to view it. And the referee will likely force him off of the field because he's gone down holding his head.
Yeah, the replay there, you could see that. You did see Kai Briscoe tap Ham Hughes a little bit as he was coming down, and obviously something that wasn't intentional, but hopefully Ham Hughes is all right and is looked after.
Yeah, and it looks like Briscoe just tried to jump up to make sure that the ball was over him, and his shoulder seemed to hit the head of Ham Hughes. Ham Hughes will, by NCAA rules, I believe, be forced off of the field and have to be substituted until they can further check him for concussion protocols, but the Gonzaga bench doesn't seem to be preparing any substitution. So perhaps they believe that he'll be fit to continue, and it's more of a mouth injury than a head injury. But the ref has stopped the clock and will likely at least force him to spend a few moments off of the field, if not be substituted.
And for Aaron Lewis, certainly decisions will have to be made, as you know that this Huskies team will be relentless on the attack, and Ham Hughes is one of the main defenders for this Gonzaga side, one of the staples that runs the team, and you're gonna have to make a decision on who you want to put at that position, maybe even switch formation, switch players around, have them play at the center back position that Ham Hughes played, and we'll have to see what goes on here, as we do see Ham Hughes coming off the field.
Yes, and it looks like Gonzaga will prepare a substitute for him. He seems as if he's prepared to enter the field, and he'll get a bit to drink. And they will substitute Ham Hughes off. It looks like they're preparing to substitute him right back on, but they'll bring on Anthony Hidalgo, who had really another substitute appearance earlier in the season at center back. And the referee will clarify the rules to Aaron Lewis about the head injury protocol as the game is further delayed. It looks as if they're preparing really to substitute Ham Hughes right back on the next interval. And it looks like the referee will allow them to do so whenever the ball goes out of bounds.
Play resumes for now, as the ball has already gone out of bounds. And they will bring on Ham Hughes. Would you believe that, Kevin?
Yeah, and if I was Hidalgo, I'd be extremely frustrated. I think this is an opportunity. They've just forced him really to come on the field. They've allowed him to put a jersey on. He's filled in really without skipping a beat for center backs for this Gonzaga team before in their 3 center back sort of lineup, and I think he'll be enormously frustrated by the fact that they've really put him on for no reason. I think they can allow Ham Hughes to stay off the field and play with 10 men for one play, and they've chosen not to, and really just sub on Hidalgo needlessly. Although it wouldn't be too out of the ordinary to see him make an appearance later in this game, and perhaps his minutes are just yet to come.
Ball sails in the air as Ben Augie tries to get an attempt. Peter Kingston will win that challenge, though. And win might be a strong word for that, as Gonzaga will get the throw in on the near side of the pitch here, right beside the UW bench.
Yes, and the University of Washington will look to attack quickly as they claim the ball that's bounced out from the throw-in. Mustafa's under pressure from 2 Huskies, and the Huskies are able to pick up possession of the ball. The Zags already have essentially everyone back, with the exception of their 2 forwards. And we'll look to try and prevent an attacking return here. The Huskies able to dribble all the way to the touchline and able to win a corner kick. But the referee believes it's come off of the University of Washington last, and will award a goal kick to the Gonzaga Bulldogs and the Wessel Sprangers.
And I think recently, in these past 10 minutes or so, we have seen Gonzaga able to march the ball up a little bit more forward and instead see a UW side that it hasn't been so attacking, and possibly Gonzaga could get a chance here.
Yes, and Chris Swider is able to bring the ball down from the long ball. Really, as it was cleared, it did hit his hand, but not enough to be called a handball. And the University of Washington will look to attack quickly, running all the way down the field.
That was Kai Briscoe there, which is interesting to note. He ran down the whole way of the field. Certainly will be gassed after that attempt, and a clean tackle for sure by Ham Hughes.
Yes, and Ham Hughes does well not to kick his opponent there, as his foot was close to his face. And if he had made the wrong motion, even in the slightest, the referee could have booked him. A drop ball as the referees stopped the game because the ball hit him as University of Washington attempted to pass the ball, and they'll find themselves all the way in the penalty box, and a little bit too much dribbling clearly from Richie Aman. And the ball will be played long, and the ball will be played long again, and offside as the University of Washington Husky forward has come back from an offside position to claim the clearance from Jaden Bowton, who we really haven't had to say much about so far in the second half. University of Washington in the first 15 minutes of the second half, able to keep their goalkeeper relatively out of the action.
Yeah, and we mentioned that. I think we weren't expecting to talk about Jaden Bowton too much, as I think obviously we assumed that this UW team would be very attacking, and they have been. But for Richie Amen, I think he has played a very good game so far, although he did have a chance of dribbling too much. And I think he creates a lot of the opportunities, although he's only a sophomore. He does so much for this team and finding himself in the right positions like now.
Yes, and Amen there will find his teammate on the pass. Mustafa with the tackle. But well done by Amen to try and look for a teammate on that one, as he's able to find a teammate again and look to be played down the right side of the field. Find himself in a 1v1 versus Mustafa, and Mustafa's had some contact with him, but not enough to be called a foul. I think the referee's done well to make the same decisions on both sides of the ball here. Here we'll get another look at it as Amen tries to go around Mustafa and kind of falls down before Mustafa extends his arm. And I think really Mustafa's in danger there, as he did extend his arm, and some referees might call that a different way. But this referee's been fairly consistent and will not call that as a foul. Swider looks to bring the ball down. and looks to find Campisi on the far side. Campisi looks to dribble past two Huskies, able to do so, and able to dribble past one of them a second time. He looks to find a teammate and will be unable to do so.
And if you're Campisi, you've definitely got to note that you've had such a good game. But watch here, note, Richie Amen unable to make that, but that was very close. He did have plenty of space. I think we knocked him off for dribbling too much on that occasion, but I think he could have dribbled a little bit more there.
Yes, it's almost as if he heard us and took us too seriously, as he had space and time in front of him, but decided to look for a teammate. And I think he'll find the right balance as this game goes on. He's getting a lot of touches in that near half space and looking to find a teammate and create something on the attacking side of the ball. And really the past few attacks for this Huskies team have come through him. And they'll likely look to continue to do so as they found some success. Really not enough success to get past the likes of Mustafa.
That'll seem to slip off Campisi, and the Gonzaga fan attendance, especially the players, were happy to hear that it was going to be a corner, but it turned out to be a goal kick in the end. Here's the replay here. We do see Campisi trying to make a play, and he seems to just make it off his own leg on a sliding attempt, but we talked about it before, Kevin. Campisi's definitely got to be elated with that, with his performance so far.
Yes, and I think as we see the Zags substitute Cam Bain on the field for the likes of Drew Peterson, I think that was one of those goal kick or corner kick situations where you couldn't really see regardless. I mean, we seemed to have a better angle than the referees, and even then it seemed to be hard to see who it came off last, and I think it's always safe to call those as a goal kick.
Swung out wide to Briscoe, as he will find himself with some space. He will play it back to a center back pairing in Nate Jones, and they will look to swing it around for this UW side, as it's easy to make attacking plays through the wing, but the hard part is getting it into the box and getting good services in, especially with the likes of Ham Hughes, who is 6'5" and such a tall figure. They might have to resort to playing it on the ground.
And really at this point in the game, what we're seeing from the Zags is likely what a lot of fans expected to see from the start, is that the Zags would sit back and try and keep themselves in the game and without allowing their opponents any opportunity to score. They've forfeited a lot in terms of field space and really chances to score as well. It'll be a lot harder for the Zags to score, but they'll have chances on the counterattack if they continue to play like this. But they're definitely sitting a lot deeper and playing in a lot more of a conservative manner than they did to start the game. The Huskies still looking to shift the point of attack side to side and get the better of their opponents. Unable to break through in the second half, and the ball played into the middle. He's able to find a teammate, and that shot is put just over the goal.
And Sprangers is visibly annoyed about the idea that Sean Sent was there in the box, and there was really no one there to guard him. And I think Sprangers will certainly be annoyed with opportunities like that, where there's so many defenders for Gonzaga who sit on that defensive line, yet no one is there to actually defend for the services.
Yes, and really a free shot for the Huskies is put over the goal by Sean Sant, a junior from Bellevue, Washington. It also looks like this University of Washington team has not traveled with their full roster. I think they've brought 18 here to Spokane, which is fairly standard for teams traveling and on the road. And that ball off of the foot of Kalani Kosa Rienzi will bounce out of bounds. Gonzaga throw in for Devin Slingsby. And he'll look for Swider. And Swider will chase it down with his best effort. And that's one thing that Swider will really always do. It's a characteristic of his as a player, is that when he's the forward for this Gonzaga team, he's a forward that has a sort of mentality that you want to see if you're a program like Gonzaga, in that he doesn't care what the scoreline is or really anything about the game, and he's always going to chase the ball down and try and get into dangerous positions for his team and try and get himself or his teammates on the scoreboard. A foul against, actually I believe it was offside for the University of Washington, will allow Wessel Sprangers to take a free kick for the Zags, and he'll wait for his teammate and take his time, the scenic route if you will, before he takes the free kick, and takes it as long as he possibly can. And he'll be able to find Slingsby, and Slingsby was actually seemingly caught a little bit of his opponent there, Kai Briscoe, who's had a sliding tackle and put the ball out of bounds. But an impressive tackle from Briscoe, and he seems to be up and back and playing and all right.
Yeah, that was a great play by Briscoe. I think he's really been a standout player for the Huskies team, who obviously have not excelled in terms of attack. So I think pointing towards their defense would be something a little more to be proud of.
Yes, and Campisi tries to bring down his opponent there and stop the attack short. Admittedly, probably putting himself in a position to get a yellow card if he was successful. But unable to tackle his opponent.
Quickly played.
Zags able to find a little bit of success down this near side of the field with Augie and Cam Bain combining. Impressive flick from Augie that'll, again, go in his own highlight reel. Slingsby will take the throw in. And the Zags look to move the ball forward through Slingsby. He's coming to the sort of a half space and look to play the ball long across the field to Campisi. It looks like after sitting back for a while, the Zags will look to attack. They win themselves a corner kick through the shot of Chris Swider, and you would almost have to compare this Gonzaga style of play in the second half to that of like almost a bear. They sit back, they hibernate, and then whenever they feel like it, they come out and they go hunt. And right now it looks like the Gonzaga Bulldogs are moving themselves forward, and they're looking to put themselves on the hunt for a goal.
Certainly, and that's a great analogy, Kevin. You know, I never would have thought of that, but now that comes to mind, it's a great play of words.
And the ball is claimed by Jaden Boughton. And he'll play it out as the Zags look to, again, retreat. The Huskies look to play the ball quickly. And Mustafa's been first to every ball down this near side of the field, so far in the second half at least. And the Huskies will move the ball around to the other side and look for some success. But you think they might want to move their faster players or switch their methodology of attack to try and attack the other end of the field as the cross gets past the likes of Ham Hughes and bounces right back out. But the Huskies will retain possession of it from the corner area and look to play it from the flank of the field into the middle and try and get themselves a shot. The ball's picked up in the middle of the field and dribbled through several Zags. And that was number 14, Christian Soto of the Huskies, while unable to get past the last line of Zag defenders and get himself a shot on goal.
Yeah, and you really would expect a quicker pace, you know, something of a faster movement, something like Max Verstappen in F1, where you want to expect plays like that and quick ones, but instead they turn over simple plays like that, and Gonzaga can find themselves on occasions possibly for a counterattack since this UW team presses so high.
Yeah, Hidalgo's tracking back so far today could definitely be compared to the pace of Max Verstappen.
Strung out wide for Campisi. looking to find options. There isn't the middle option, who they do see. And they will swing it wide for Slingsby. Slingsby looking to take on the defender. Scissor to the left and played in. Possibly looking to keep it in. And it is, but it's taken over immediately by the Washington player. And no foul is called there.
And the referee actually signaled advantage there, which is a strange thing to signal, but the shot is wide and the Gonzaga bench all seemingly jumped and thought that that one was on target.
Yeah, that was a great shot here. Just looking at the replay one more time. We do see a chance to wind up and take a shot, and he will do a Jell Van Dyke just a little wide, and the first chance for Jaden Boughton where he really has been a little phased all in the second half.
Yes, and the Huskies, meanwhile, have made a substitution. They've brought off Cooper Brunel, and brought on Richie Amon. He's back on the field, and likely his coach has given him a little bit of instruction as he had a lot of success in the later stages before he was substituted off of the field. And he'll look to make an impact for his team in these final 18 minutes of the game. Huh?
Yeah, it's coming close for this UW side, and to not have a goal yet is certainly going to be frightening for them, so they're definitely going to have to push the pace. I think their coach, Jamie Clark, is certainly going to replicate that in his vocabulary and communication.
Yes, and they still find themselves with possession in attacking areas, but not a lot to show for it in terms of statistics. They definitely have some more shots in the second half, and more than that of the Zags, but nothing really too challenging for the likes of Sprangers.
And we do see Chris Swider coming on for Cam Bain. Swider will be a key player looking to serve a chance alongside his striking partner in Drew Peterson.
And the Zags really just looking for a forward who's going to get them a return or an output in these last 18 minutes. Presumably on a counterattack as the Huskies look to counterattack down the near side in their own way.
Yeah, Kosa Rienzi took that well off of Ben Augie, and it was clean for sure. Looking for more of those is going to be in the midfield for this Huskies team.
The Huskies will look to play the ball from the back, although having their defenders in quite advanced positions due to the Gonzaga low block. And again, Mustafa's just gotten the better of his opponent and one possession for his team.
Peter Kingston takes it over, swung out wide, but it's cleared well by Gonzaga, and they refute another chance from the Huskies.
Yes, Sam Dollins just kicked that one about as far away as he probably could on that occasion, and looks to allow his team to get set for a Husky throw-in, and it will be a short throw-in this time, as they've pinned Gonzaga's defenders back by expecting the long throw. And the four Huskies on the near side will look to possess the ball and put it into their four teammates at the back post. And Slingsby's won a foul there. Quite risky, as he likely could have stayed on his feet.
But that obviously is the aggressiveness that you do see from Richie Amen. And that's an easy play for someone like Slingsby to understand that and recognize the frustration coming from Amen and be able to take a foul like that.
And Slingsby on the ball now and unable to get the ball past his opponent, Kai Briscoe, who's again he's a senior for this University of Washington team and a center back from Renton, Washington. And he's been hugely impressive for them, popping up really in all areas of the field. The referees called a foul against University of Washington's number 8, Peter Kingston, for bringing down Swider.
Yeah, here's a look at the replay once again. Just tugging on him a little bit, and certainly a foul.
The Zags will have Slingsby take the free kick and look for a teammate in the middle. Ham Hughes is unmarked in the box, and so is Ben Augie. It looks like the University of Washington Huskies have a zonal system in order to defend their opponent, and their zonal system consists of every player in a straight line.
Decent attempt there from around 25, 30 yards out by the likes of Campisi. It was a good flick over the defender, and you know that the Huskies are going to come straight for you, so you kind of got to take that first time, so I don't mind that attempt.
Yes, and his teammates surely liked it, despite the fact that it was clearly going over from the point at which Campisi shot it. It was a lot closer than what the Zags have been able to produce so far in this half.
Mistake there from the Husky side. And Campisi will collect the ball from the numerous Gonzaga fans that are in attendance today. First off, a sub will be made though, as we do see Harrison Bertos, a key player who has played at the fullback role.
And he'll enter the field for Peter Kingston, who's really come down on the field. It looks like he might be injured or exhausted, perhaps cramping for this Huskies team. And they might look to give him some electrolytes and get him back on the field. The Huskies will continue to attack. And the Zags will reclaim possession.
Certainly in tight spots here, but it's a great back heel by Gonzaga, able to push it up. And once again, I think the player had a little more space there in order to take their time. But we will see Sean Sen and the Huskies make their way down the field.
Yes, and Nate Jones picked up the ball at the back for the Huskies, and again, that's another player similar to Mustafa for the Zags, who's had no issue anywhere on the field. He's picked up really every challenge and won the ball numerous times for his team. University of Washington center midfielder again is cramping, and it will be their number 6 substituted. Kalani Konarienzi will be substituted for their number 20, Nick O'Brien, the redshirt freshman. And perhaps this University of Washington team is starting to run out of fuel, as they've been on the front foot, and maybe they need some electrolytes. Maybe it's beet juice. I heard beets are good for cramps. Some of my teammates have used that in the past. I'm not sure that it works, but they allege that it does. And the long ball is played in by Wessel Sprangers of the Zags.
Drew Peterson looking to press upon that, and Soto will clear that one out. Gonzaga will retain possession though, as Slingsby will be forced to come near, and Amen is unable to collect it. Just a bunch of mosh pits all around, but Gonzaga will get it.
Yes, and Joe Van Dyke will move forward and look for a teammate, able to find Campisi on the far side. And Campisi still in the box, is able to get a shot off. So it's a tough angle to get something on target, and he hasn't gotten anything on target on that attempt.
I think at this point, the fact of the matter is there's around 12 minutes left, so all you got to do is run back and get into your position for low block scenarios.
Yes, and like we talked about earlier in the game, the Gonzaga women's team experience going against a low block and can just go to show you how well a low block can work against an opposing team when done right. This is a Gonzaga women's team that this week was named as the best attacking team in Division I women's soccer and was held to a clean sheet going up against the St. Mary's low block. And the Zags men's team will look to emulate that St. Mary's low block and keep a strong and highly rated University of Washington Huskies team off of the score sheet in the second half. And they'll look to improve their historical record against the Huskies. And Joe Van Dyke able to try and get past one of his opponents and unable to do so with retaining possession of the ball, but Campisi's pressure will win the ball back for the Zags, and they'll look to, again, sort of attack. And quickly taken over by the Huskies, and they'll look to move quickly down the field. Hidalgo tracking back, and they're able to find some space on the right side and play the ball into the middle, and it will bounce off the likes of Dahlin and be cleared as Drew Peterson looks to take a 2v1 opportunity, a 3v2 opportunity against the Zags with his teammate Swider. Against the Huskies with his teammate Swider. And the ball played by Robbie Mora over the top will roll all the way to the corner and take a few seconds off the clock.
Maybe that wasn't the attempt, but they got some positive out of it, as Drew Pearson was looking just to go a little short on that attempt.
Yes, and the ball's played over the top, and Sprangers is off of his line and able to come to the edge of his box and claim it. And he'll go down to take a few more seconds off of the clock.
Certainly time wasting is, you might expect to see some cards in terms of time wasting.
Yes, and the Zags really have done well not to time waste in an obvious manner up to this point. But there's definitely ways in which the clock has ticked down. And the Zags will work it around the back against the University of Washington Huskies team that finds themselves without possession, really for one of the few intervals in this second half. They'll look to attack down the far side of the field. And dribbling Campisi. And looking for a teammate in the middle, and Dahlin able to get a foot to it, and it will be a University of Washington Huskies corner kick with a few minutes left to go here. They'll bring on two substitutes. They'll bring on number 6, Kalani Kosarienzi, who was cramping a few minutes ago. Maybe they did give him the beet juice. And number 11, Chris Peretti, who went to Gonzaga Prep and is a native of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. They look to bring in the hometown hero to crash the hometown party here in Spokane.
They will take off Richie Amen in return for that. And Emmanuel Rosales will look to play in the ball here.
And that will go all the way to the likes of Sprangers, who's caught his opponent, and his opponent is down. The referee won't stop the game, and neither will the Huskies, as their teammate has gotten back up and looks to score again. But the referee will stop the clock and force the Husky forward off of the field if he can identify which player that it was.
Certainly these are crucial moments for Gonzaga on the defensive side, where we're going to need communication, especially with the ball coming in from Rosales, who's such a talented player.
And he'll play the ball to the top of the box, and they'll play it back into the box and look to cross it from play. Able to do so and look to find somebody in the middle, and Sprangers is the highest rising player and will claim that ball played into the middle. Drew Peterson runs on to the long ball from Sprangers for the Zags, and the ball is put right out of bounds with no hesitation from Kai Briscoe. Talented center back for the Huskies. And the Zags will play with quite a bit of urgency when they're in attack here. Slingsby. And Slingsby's dispossessed as the Huskies will run down the field the other way. And surely a foul will be called against Slingsby. But the referee hasn't seen it.
Soto on the ball here.
And Soto's also being shoved a little bit more than the referee has allowed previously in the game, but he won't call a foul again. And the Huskies able to win the ball on the Zag counterattack. Look to go the other way. They've drawn the Zags line out a little bit here. And the Gonzaga center backs are on the top of the box. I'm not sure if this is a tactical change that's been communicated, but it allows a little bit of space to happen in between their defensive line and their goalkeeper. But the ball looking to be crossed in by Chris Peretti will roll out of bounds.
Keep working, boys.
And we will see 2 possible subs coming in for Gonzaga with Ben Elkins and Spencer Carl, possibly as options for up top and blistering speed that we do know.
Yeah, Spencer Carl, a redshirt freshman for the Zags from Portland, Oregon. And Ham, he was able to clear the ball being played over the top from the team in purple, the University of Washington Huskies, who have found themselves in Spokane on the other side of the state with 5 minutes and 10 seconds left to play and on even terms.
Ball played out of bounds. Campisi will pick it up with a little sense of urgency. And we will see those subs coming on now. One for Devin Slingsby, who looks to be extremely exhausted. I think he's put in a good performance today. Alongside number 28, Jell Van Dyke.
Yes, the Zags will be grateful for those 2 players for putting in their best effort tonight and keeping the score even. Slingsby with large involvements on the defensive side of the ball, as Ben Augie is able to dribble past his opponent and find Ben Elkins, and Ben Elkins looks to put it into the middle of the box, and that will fall to the new substitute, who will volley it first time and put it, really clear it into the practice field.
At this point, though, if you're Gonzaga, why not take a shot like that and then recuperate on defense? A tie would even be huge here for Gonzaga.
It is true, and a tie would be a great confidence booster for this Gonzaga program that's really found themselves tying a multitude of their games so far this season, but one in the middle of their West Coast Conference season against a team receiving votes in the national rankings can be a huge confidence booster.
Threadgold on the ball. We'll play it around for Soto. Soto swings it out wide to Jones. Jones plays it one more time, right on the sideline. Barely able to get it. And UW will move down the field.
And they'll take it right back and have some patience in these final minutes as they try and break through the parked bus of Gonzaga.
It's a good tackle put in by Campisi on Bertos. And we will see Jack McGuire, the junior defender, come on the field.
Yes, and he'll go straight to the forward areas. It looks like they've just got somebody who's willing to put himself in a challenge into the box and trying to get something on the end of a cross or a long throw like this one. Sprangers comes all the way out to claim the long throw. Really a long throw that's not long enough or wasn't seen long enough. Sprangers wasn't on his line when he threw the ball, and it looked like Sprangers was always liable to come get it.
Bowton will play it quick to Briscoe. Briscoe swings it out wide for Bertos. And Bertos finds himself in a lot of space, seeing what he can create in these opportunities.
Yes, and Bertos will play it down the line. This University of Washington Huskies team looks to inject some pace into the game in the final few minutes, and the ball played long into the middle will again end up at the hands of Sprangers.
Sprangers seemingly looking to have a chat with some of the players who are creeping a little too far up. Drew Peterson will get that, and Briscoe will be great in clearing one of those opportunities. Peretti boots that one out, and it will be Gonzaga ball.
And a Gonzaga throw-in, which will be taken by Ben Elkins after they substitute him off the field and Devin Slingsby back on the field. It seems like perhaps Gonzaga's not on the same page with some of their coaching staff as well. It looked like that substitute was intended to slow the game down. There's no reason to bring Slingsby off and then back on within a minute. But it looked like the players wanted to move quickly and try and get something on the score sheet. The Huskies will move down the field, and the ref will call it back. And the ref will stop the clock with 51 seconds remaining. And resume play. A throw in for Slingsby, which he'll take as long as possible. Look for the likes of Peterson. Peterson able to get something to it, but the Huskies able to claim the ball on the second bounce. They look to go quickly down the other end, and it's past Slingsby. The Huskies able to claim the ball down the right side of the field, and the ball played will go to a goal kick, which will likely take the final seconds out of this game. The referee's already telling Sprangers to hurry up, as the clock is ticking down. And Sprangers will clear this one when he's ready, as long as he can. The final countdown has started here, and it looks like the Zags have bettered their record against the Huskies, Rue.
Yeah, it's a great performance for them, as Slingsby will boot that one out, and they will be happy with that. But for Jamie Clark and the coaching and support staff of University of Washington, they will not be pleased with that, and I'm sure the players will get a little bit of a talking to, Kev.
Yes, and this is a program that really might find themselves in hot water after today's game. They've found themselves in the tournament for a multitude of consecutive years, and this might be the first time they don't find themselves in the tournament. They've lost 4 games already. They have several ties, including one now against the Gonzaga Bulldogs, and they'll have to have a strong run-in at the end of the season in order to find themselves in really the conversation of the NCAA tournament. They're still ranked around the top 25, but they have a lot more to do in their final 5 games if they're going to be a national championship contender.
And for Gonzaga, it'll be a great tie for them, looking to be very happy and full of confidence after what they would call a victory, but obviously in terms of stats, a tie, as they do play other tough opponents in Portland and Santa Clara coming up, and they'll look to build upon it for the future and to end the season on a good note, Kev.
Yes, and this meeting of the Washington Dog Derby has ended in a tie. Gonzaga Bulldogs 1, University of Washington Huskies 1. We'll be right back with post-game analysis and our post-game show. You are watching Gonzaga Soccer here on ESPN. Welcome back to Spokane, Washington, home of the Gonzaga Bulldogs, where they found themselves getting a result for the 3rd time ever against the University of Washington Huskies team with a 1-1 draw.
Certainly a result to talk about that's positive for the Zags, although it did end in a tie. And I think for UW, I will say their man of the match, although it wasn't a great performance from them, was Kai Briska. I think he played very well on defense at the center back role. And what would you say for Gonzaga, Kev?
I think Gonzaga had a multitude of really impressive performers, especially in the back line today. But I think between Mustafa and Sprangers, they kept themselves in the game. And their teammates will be especially grateful for him. They'll be offering him, if he wants lobster, they'll be trying to cook him cookies. They'll be doing everything for their team to show their appreciation for those 2 players after this performance. This was actually, in fact, the 3rd time that Gonzaga has faced a top 25 RPI ranked team so far this season. And it was the 3rd time they did so at home. And it was the 3rd time that they got a result against one of those opponents with the scoreline of 1-1. And this time they were able to even out the shots a little bit more, Rue.
Yes, certainly. Good performance for Gonzaga on that attempt, as they did the same against Seattle, securing a tie against them alongside Fullerton, who were unranked and are now ranked 14th on the national polls. So definitely good results for Gonzaga facing tougher opponents, and also a little questionable with how they play against tougher opponents versus opponents that they maybe should be beating.
Yes, I think it's largely a difference of how they have to change their style of play. I think in the second half we saw that they were able to keep themselves at a draw really against any opponent, and I think in the future we'll see similar things from this Gonzaga program, but it's a matter of expanding and finding themselves in attacking position. that makes the difference between going against a stronger and a weaker opponent.
Right, and there were a few players who came down with injuries. We did see Ham Hughes come out alongside Ben Aggie, but it's good to see them come back in full form. And for the game, I think they played a huge role in being able to create, and especially Ham Hughes on defense. They definitely needed him as a taller target just to clear shots and also act as a attacking player.
Yes, and the Zags overall will be happy with their home performances this season, and especially this one against an in-state rival. So for Roos Denson, I am Kevin McGann, saying so long from Spokane, where the final score is Gonzaga Bulldogs 1, University of Washington Huskies 1. All games airing on the ESPN networks are streaming live and archived on the ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN. Happy birthday, little brother. Good night.